Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I just want to share this because I just found out this last night. And I missed the funeral, I missed the mass, I missed everything. I had no idea. This just happened a few days ago. So I just want to do this in memoriam because I missed the funeral and missed the mass and missed everything. It's my second cousin, David Codey Durkin, passed away on July 30th. So just in memoriam, I want to do this. You say second cousin, yeah, but I grew up knowing him since I was a little kid. It's not just like some second cousin. He was like a first cousin because I knew him so well and his entire family so well. So what I want to do is I want to go through parts of the obituary real quick. This is unrehearsed, so bear with me if you do want to listen. And then I want to just talk about a couple reminiscences with him as well about my time with him, you know, my experience with him because he was a special dude, really just an amazing guy. Reminds me a lot of Tommy Knox, another gentleman a friend who passed away in 9/11. Rest in peace, Tommy Knox. Both gregarious, fun-loving, very sociable Irish dudes, just to an extreme. Where sweet, loving, charismatic, engaging. Both of them were that type. Um, so I want to go through the obituary real quick. David Codey Durkin. I didn't know Codey was his last name. His mom's a Codey, Joan Codey. Um, Apparently, he took, they gave him her last name or her maiden name as his middle name. I had no idea about that until I saw the obituary. Joan, my sympathies to you. He passed away on July 27, 2021. States he was born on December 5th, 1970, at St. Mary's Hospital in Orange, New Jersey. To Raymond Durkin, since passed away, and Joan Durkin, who survives him. Hello, Joan, if you do see this, my dearest sympathies. I didn't know that David was born at St. Mary's Hospital. That was the same hospital I was born at. He was born December 5th, 1970, so that would have been a year and a half after I was. I was born in 69 at the same hospital, St. Mary's Hospital. And actually, my grandfather, my mother's father, so my maternal grandpa, was a doctor at St. Mary's Hospital, Dr. DeLeo, and he founded the anesthesiology department at St. Mary's Hospital. So I didn't know that David was born at St. Mary's Hospital. Just that's surprised by that. It says David was more affectionately known as D-Man, DD, Double D, and Super Dave, among other monikers, which is funny. Those you don't know, that probably came from Super Dave Osborne. It's an HBO. It's a clip from an old HBO comedy show from the 1970s. Super Dave Osborne. I'll put up a picture of Super Dave Osborne over there so you get an idea where they get that from. Almost certainly, it's where they got it from. But we'll read on, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Also, Super Dave, because he was quite an athlete as well, which would add to that moniker of his. He grew up in Maplewood, New Jersey, and was the fourth of five children, all born 1 year apart. So they're true to the Irish Catholic heritage. I just kept on popping them out once a year. Um, I didn't know that they were all. I knew they were all that close. I know it was like boom, 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 and they were like five kids, all very close in age. I didn't know it was 1 year each one, but I'm not shocked. Needless to say, um, me and my own sister are that as well. We're Irish twins. I was born in June 1969. My sister was born June 1970, almost a year apart to the day. Um, so we have that in common as well, me and David and the rest of the Durkins. Uh, Thus began a wonderful childhood in the Maplewood-South Orange Community. It was a warm and joyous place where he lived, where all were welcome, no question about it. I've been there a few times. Quite a home. It was uh, hard to describe as I remembered. I was a kid when I was there, but yeah, there's like 3 or 4 floors, and like all, and the balcony went all the way around, so you could look down all the way to the first floor. It was like each floor had a four-way balcony all the way around on each floor. Um, but continue. He graduated from Columbia High School in 1989, where he started in both basketball and lacrosse. He was a really good basketball player. As Chris, his older brother, Chris, who's my age, born in '69, was a good basketball player as well. Hello to Chris if he ends up seeing this. Matter of fact, David must have, because I remember we played, when I was on the basketball team, West Orange High School, we played Columbia. And when we played Columbia, they had a player on their team who actually made it to the NBA. Mark Bryant was his name. Um, so I'm certain Dave and Chris must have, as a matter of fact, I think, if I remember correctly, Chris, David's older brother, was the same age as Mark Bryant. Mark Bryant might have been a year older than us, so maybe 1968 he was born. But just in passing, so also states he earned All-American honors in lacrosse in his senior year. All-American, that means he's one of the best lacrosse players in the country. Played in the North-South All-American High School game, scored 3 goals in the game, and assisted on 3 others, propelling his team to a 1-goal victory. Way to go, Dave. I wasn't aware of that. I knew he was really good at lacrosse. I wasn't aware of how good until I read this. I mean, he mentioned to me, in passing, but I didn't get quite the scope that he was All-American. That's impressive. He also attended Montclair State University, where he continued his lacrosse prowess and broke several points records. I'm not shocked. And I'm going to tell a story about that because it ties in with me. I didn't know he went to Montclair State, but it ties in with me in Montclair because that's where I had been living for 3 years on the streets playing music in Montclair, New Jersey. But I'll come back to that at the end after I go through the obituary. I worked for the last 18 years as a longshoreman, proud member of ILA Local 1804. His co-workers described him as loyal, kind, and hilarious. Yes, the Irish humor, no question about that. The whole family does. Love all you guys, Durkins. Sympathies to you. Had an incredibly infectious smile, a belly-aching laugh, and a personality bigger than life. Yeah. Quick wit with that gleaming Irish charm, no doubt about it. Something I don't have, but the Durkins, almost all the Durkins have it. All of them. I'll leave them all out. They all have it. People always gravitated to Dave at gatherings, yeah, and he gravitated to people. He was very engaging. Brought people together with his humor, lit up a room like no one else could, and could quickly become the center of attention by holding court, telling jokes, and sharing stories of hilarity, no doubt about it. He had that Irish ability to tell a tale, tell stories, no doubt about it. Always made everything fun. Yeah, was also very kind and will always be an indelible blessing to this world. Dave had that gift of making other people feel great in his presence, and that is one of the greatest gifts a person can possess. No question about it. It's a lesson I could take on. I'm a Debbie Downer. Dave was that 1 in a million person that comes along once in a lifetime but leaves a mark for eternity. Dave was an absolute legend, honest to God, no crosses. But above all, nothing in the world mattered to Dave than his love for his 4 beautiful children. He carried on the Irish tradition of having a large family. His 4 beautiful children, Jack, Ryan, Elizabeth, and Claire. David always burst with pride when talking about his children's milestones and accomplishments. This is where he will be missed most. Dave is survived by his wife, Allison Radican Durkin. My sympathies to Allison. And his mother, Joan, Codey Durkin. His devoted siblings, Raymond Jr., Christopher, Timothy, and Maureen. Dave also leaves behind his adoring nieces and nephews, as well as numerous loving cousins, myself included. I miss you and love you, David. Along with his faithful Durkin and Codey aunts and uncles, especially his godparents, Raymond Codey and Anita Codey Grady. Dave rejoins his beloved father, Raymond Sr., and will again be able to engage in great conversation about sports history and politics. His father passed on a few years ago. His father was chairman of, during the 80s, he was the Democratic Party chairman in the United States. He ran the whole Democratic Party in the United States and was also for a period of time the Democratic chairman of the Democratic Party in New Jersey as well. I'll get to something about that as well later on. Relatives and friends are invited to attend. I'm not going to read that because I missed his funeral in the Mass. But in lieu of flowers, donations to Seton Hall Prep, the Brendan P. Tevlin 13 Memorial Field Fund, 120 Northfield Avenue, West Orange, New Jersey, 07052. Or the Good Vibes and Easy Living Foundation, 25 Lombard Drive, West Caldwell, New Jersey, 07006 would be appreciated. I just want to tell a couple stories that tie in with a few things in the obituary as well, and then I'll end this. He's my second cousin, but one of the many reasons that I knew him so well was, number one, we're a big Irish Catholic family, so we all know each other. Number two, because his family were from Maplewood, and they invited my dad and his family, me and my siblings, to Maplewood every summer. They were in the Maplewood Country Club. They were members, and as members, they could invite people. So they would just invite us as their regular guests, and we would spend summers there regularly at the Maplewood Country Club in the pool. And so I got to know all of my cousins in that manner when I was probably, I guess I must have been about 11, 12, 13 years old, around those ages, when I really got to know the entire family, all five siblings and their parents, Raymond and Joan. And, they were amazing in the pool. They were doing like flips and all kinds of stuff, and they just, I couldn't do the things that they did. And every one of them were amazing. They do quadruple flips in the air off the diving board and stuff. And I'd look at them like I could barely dive head first, and I did it clumsy. So they were absolutely amazing. And it ties in with something else. I'll use that as the tie-in to another place where I saw them, which is probably one of the more recent, not the most recent, where I saw David, but it was at the governor's mansion. A family member of ours, mutual family member of all of ours, was governor for a period of New Jersey for a period of time. So we had a family reunion at the governor's mansion. I wasn't even invited as the outside. I'm the black sheep of the family, of the big, huge family. I am the black sheep. I wasn't even invited. A couple members of the family found out I wasn't invited, and they said, "You come anyway." And when I showed up there, they just took a blank tag and wrote it. All the tags were filled out of the people who were invited to the family reunion at the governor's mansion. They just got a blank tag and said, "Here, Bobby, there you go. You're invited." But what reminded me of it was there was a pool at the governor's mansion, and again, I'm watching those Durkins flying, especially David, flying all over the place, diving off the diving board. They were just amazing in the pool. What else? This is what I want to talk about because this is a real thank you, and I'm almost certain it was David, and I want to tell this story. And it ties in with Royce saying where he went to Montclair State. And his godfather, Ray Codey, um, grew up in Montclair. Okay, so you have David as his went to school in Montclair State. His godfather, Ray Codey, who was also his uncle, um, grew up in Montclair, and that's where this ties in because I'm certain it was them at this point. And I just want to tell this one final story before I go. It was, God, 3 years ago, I guess it was. I had been jumped, thrown through the air by a dude 6'3", 6'4", 300 pounds. I held my own, and that guy ran away from me, but he did a lot of damage to me. Busted the bottom of my foot, elbow, pulled chest muscle, bruised ribs. So, I'm homeless, walking the streets of Montclair on one foot, hopping around on one foot, carrying a guitar, 2 book bags in the winter. It was torture. So it was at that point that I was still on Facebook at the time. It's probably about 2018. Shortly after that, I left Facebook. But I went on Facebook and I told everybody, hey, I'm going to be performing for the first time ever in a cafe. It was a cafe, forgive me, I can't remember the name of the cafe, but everybody knows it in Montclair on Bluefield Avenue. I'm horrible with these names. Um, so I said, hey, I'm performing here at this location, Bluefield Avenue, this cafe. Everybody knows it, open mic. If anybody wants to attend, great. I didn't expect anybody to attend because nobody gives a damn about me. I'm the black sheep, not only my family, but my friends as well. Um, so I got there early, sat in the very, very front, and the place got packed, and I performed, and I was surprised by the reception my music got. I performed all my own music. I was very surprised by the reception I got, as I stated. And, as I was leaving, I was hopping out. The reason I did it was because I was convinced I was going to eventually die being homeless out on the streets. And I wanted to make sure that I went and actually performed in a location. And that's why I did it. So as I'm hopping out, carrying my guitar and my book bag, I'm hopping out. It's one long location, and it was packed. The place was packed. So, I went through all the packed spectators towards the back, which is actually the front where the entrance is. And as I got there, it's somewhat dark out. There were 2 people seated together in the very back, and I couldn't see them very well. I could see their shape because it was like in a shadow. And as I was leaving, they turned to me and said, hey, they said, you did a really good job. And I just turned, looked at them, I couldn't see, and I said, thank you very much, and I just popped out of the cafe. And as I was hopping out, I was thinking I must have known them, but I couldn't see because of the darkness and the shadows. So as I'm leaving, I'm trying to think, who was that? Who was that? And I was thinking that guy, the one taller guy, looked kind of like my father, but it wasn't. And then it hit me. I said, I think that was David, Durkin, and Ray. My dad's cousin Ray, which was David's godfather and uncle. At this point, I'm almost positive because we had that familiarity of Dave with Montclair, going to Montclair State, and the fact that his godfather, Uncle Ray, grew up in Montclair. I'm certain that both of them showed up, and I thank both of them for it. I wish I had known, but I was, I was in so much pain that you don't have any idea how much pain. Just a bruised rib. Anybody who's had a bruised rib knows every move you make is painful. Well, I had a bruised rib, pulled chest muscle, busted elbow, busted foot. So for 1 month, I was hopping around on one foot, carrying a guitar and 2 book bags. Hopping. And the foot I was hopping on, the leg I was hopping on, is the one, my right leg, which is, I broke that hip in 1989. So I was in so much pain. I just was like, yeah, thank you. I didn't, I was just trying to deal with the pain. I'm certain that was David and Ray. I'm going to have to ask Ray. My father's still in contact with his cousin Ray. My father's cousin, David's uncle. So I'm going to ask him to ask if that was them. Should state that only reason I even found out about David passing away is after 10 years, I haven't spoken to my parents in 10 years. I've called them regularly because I'm concerned about them, especially over this pandemic. My dad called me back yesterday, and I talked to my father for the first time in 10 years. And that's how I found out about David just passing away. So I'm going to have to ask my father to talk to Ray and see if that was David and Ray. I'm certain it was. Because I didn't see their faces, but their shapes in the shadows. The reason I thought Ray was my father is because they're related and they have similar everything. Oh, but rest in peace, David. You be loved and missed by many, more than you could ever imagine, or the viewers of this could ever imagine. Thanks for watching. I'm going to have a new video up very soon.